legal frameworks, and women's rights. This week, we'll explore the legal frameworks that protect and promote women's rights, both internationally and within African contexts. Legal frameworks are essential tools for addressing systemic injustices, combating discrimination, and ensuring that women's voices are heard and valued in all spheres of life. By understanding these frameworks, you'll be better equipped to advocate for gender justice and defend women EDS rights in your community. 1. Overview of legal frameworks for women's rights. Key concepts. Gender equality. The state in which individuals of all genders have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities in all spheres of life. Discrimination. Unfair treatment or prejudice against individuals based on their gender. Legal frameworks, laws, policies, and treaties established to promote and protect women's rights. International frameworks. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. Adopted in 1948, the UDHR recognizes the inherent dignity and equal rights of all people. Article 1 declares that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, setting a precedent for gender equality. Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, often described as the Bill of Rights for Women. CEDAW calls for the elimination of gender discrimination in all forms and obligates states to adopt legislative measures ensuring gender equality. Maputo Protocol, a regional treaty that builds on CEDAW, offering specific protections for women's rights in areas like reproductive health, inheritance, and violence. Reflection activity scholars will research how their countries have ratified and implemented these frameworks. They will analyze gaps in implementation, e.g., weak enforcement, limited public awareness, and highlight successes, e.g., progressive laws, improved gender parity in education. 2. National laws and policies. Case study approach. Using Uganda, South Africa, and Rwanda as examples, scholars will examine how national constitutions and laws uphold women's rights. For instance, Uganda's Constitution, 1995, explicitly prohibits discrimination based on sex and mandates the state to address historical imbalances. South Africa's Constitution, 1996, renowned for its comprehensive Bill of Rights, which guarantees equality and prohibits discrimination. Rwanda's post-genocide legal reforms have led to gender quotas in parliament, making it a global leader in women's political representation. Policies in Action scholars will explore how gender-focused laws address systemic issues. Domestic Violence Acts. Laws that criminalize domestic abuse and provide legal recourse for survivors. Equal pay legislation, ensuring men and women receive equal pay for equal work. Sexual harassment policies. Mechanisms in workplaces to protect employees and provide redress. Interactive task scholars will compare laws from 2 African countries, identifying strengths and gaps. For example, how do Uganda's domestic violence laws differ from South Africa's? This exercise will reveal the importance of context and highlight lessons for effective policymaking. 3. Challenges in legal implementation. Systemic barriers. Legal protections often fail due to cultural norms that perpetuate gender inequality, weak enforcement mechanisms, and institutional corruption. For example, cultural norms. In some societies, traditions may prioritize customary law over formal legal systems, undermining women's rights. Weak enforcement. Survivors of gender-based violence often face stigma and inadequate support from law enforcement. Institutional corruption. Bribery and lack of accountability can prevent women from accessing justice. Gender-based violence case studies. Examples where laws failed include cases where survivors of violence were dismissed by police or faced prolonged court delays. In Kenya, for instance, civil society organizations have stepped in to fill gaps, offering legal aid and advocating for systemic reforms. Role-play activity scholars will participate in a simulated court hearing. Each group will represent different stakeholders: plaintiffs, defendants, judges, and advocates. Using both international and national legal frameworks, they will argue a gender-based discrimination case, enhancing their understanding of legal processes. 4. Global organizations, advancing women's rights, role of global bodies. Organizations like UN Women, the African Union, and grassroots NGOs play critical roles in advancing gender justice. These bodies provide technical assistance to governments, advocate for policy reforms, and mobilize resources to address gaps in implementation. For example, UN Women offers guidance on integrating gender equality into national development plans. African Union promotes women's rights through instruments like the Maputo Protocol. Grassroots NGOs provide training and resources for local campaigns addressing issues like child marriage and sexual violence. Practical applications. Scholars will explore how these organizations empower local activists and communities. For instance, NGOs like Equality Now provide training and resources for grassroots campaigns addressing issues like child marriage and sexual violence. Guest speaker, recorded lecture. A representative from an NGO will discuss advocacy strategies and real-world challenges, or scholars will watch a lecture exploring global efforts to protect women's rights. 5. Advocacy skills for defenders of women's rights. Building advocacy campaigns. Advocacy involves raising awareness, influencing policy, and mobilizing stakeholders to act on critical issues. Scholars will learn the key steps to building a campaign. 1. Identifying an issue. For example, unequal pay or gender-based violence. 2. Researching and gathering evidence, using data and case studies to support the issue. 3. Engaging stakeholders, including policymakers, community leaders, and the public. 4. Communicating effectively through media, public forums, and social media. Tools for advocacy. Social media, platforms like Twitter and Facebook to amplify messages and engage the public. Policy briefs, concise, evidence-based documents to influence decision-makers. Community organizing, building coalitions, and mobilizing people around shared goals. Practical workshop scholars will develop a short advocacy plan addressing a women's rights issue in their country. This plan should include the issue's background, proposed solutions, and a strategy for stakeholder engagement. Scholars will present their plans and receive feedback. Learning resources. To support your learning, you'll have access to a range of learning materials, including articles, reports, and case studies from organizations like UN Women, UNICA, and Human Rights Watch. These resources will provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the legal mechanisms available to protect women's rights and the skills to advocate for their implementation in your community. Why this week matters. Understanding legal frameworks is crucial for anyone committed to promoting gender equality and women's rights. Laws and policies provide the foundation for addressing systemic injustices, but their impact depends on effective implementation and enforcement. By the end of this week, you will have a clear understanding of the legal mechanisms available to protect women's rights and the skills to advocate for their implementation in your community. We hope this week will inspire you to take action and use legal frameworks as tools for driving social change. Let us dive into this important topic together and explore how we can work towards a more just and equitable world for all.